Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the October 20th meeting of the MSAD 60 School Board. And I'd also like to welcome our guests. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Let's start out by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Elva, thank you very much for chairing last week when I was out.
No problem.
And Elva is now going to read our public input statement.
First public input session is a 21-minute session with each person having no longer than 3 minutes in which to make a statement. The second public input session may be held at the end of the meeting if allowed by the board chair. The speaker will give his name, address, and reason for speaking. Public input is designated for district residents, but the board chair may grant non-residents the opportunity to address the board. Statements concerning subject matter that falls under the law regarding executive session, for example, matters involving personnel, cannot be made during public input. We, as a community, pledge to treat each other as we wish to be treated. We pledge to seek understanding when there may be disagreement. Regardless of outcomes or opinions, we pledge to move forward with respect.
Thank you, Elva. Is there any public input from our guests here tonight?
Hi, my name is Daniel Norwood. Thank you for letting me come here today. The reason I came here is because I am a candidate for state representative, running to represent towns that fall under the school district. I was also part of the school district for a while up until fifth grade. So I'm that, and I'd like to, if anyone in the board would like an opportunity to talk, I'd love to hear about concerns and issues that folks are facing within the school district. If there's anything I can help with, because I know like an asset for education's a priority. So if anyone wants to talk after, we'll discuss it.
So Daniel, what years were you at Hussey and Berwick Elementary School?
So, so we moved in 2004. So Berwick, fifth grade would have been 2004, 2003. Fourth grade, I had Jean Noel as my teacher. That would have been 32. And I had Miss Roy, third grade, which was her first year at Hussey. And
That's Miss Luders, by the way, our middle school.
I had Miss Noel again, second grade.
Yep.
And then Miss Williams, first grade, and Miss Harris in kindergarten.
Oh my goodness. Crazy. Towns are you representing?
Running to represent Acton 11, so 11 falls under. Like I said, I do have connections to my sisters went to high school, and it's weird being here because of all the times I was dragged here for their events, such as the field hockey team, the dance showcases.
I always thought it was strange that more candidates didn't come to board meetings.
I know.
Good. This is excellent. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Okay. Anybody else have input for this evening? Okay, so moving on, let's take a look at the minutes of October 6th. Does anybody have any changes, or would you like to make a motion to accept as written?
There was one for me, when we talked about the minutes of the meeting before September 22nd. I also was abstaining because I wasn't here on the 22nd, and my name's not down.
Thank you.
I feel like I wasn't at that meeting either, but I can't recall.
On the 20, you were at that meeting.
You were-
I
you were
remember
there.
seeing
Yeah,
you, and
yeah.
I wasn't at the 6th, so.
Yes, I was at that meeting.
Victoria, are you sure you were not at the 22nd?
I'm pretty sure I couldn't get my computer to hook up because I didn't have any internet. And I wasn't here physically.
Okay. Okay, so I'll fix that. Minutes.
So with that amendment, do we have a motion to accept those minutes and approve?
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Do we have a second?
A second.
All those in favor?
I abstain. I was not here.
Motion is passed.
Okay. It's not Joanna today. Kimberly.
And our next order of business is our student report. So Echo, what good news do you have to share with us?
You need to, can I just start or do you need to?
You can just, no, you can start. I'm just gonna take what you're saying and throw it into the minutes of the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a lot about clubs tonight. The civil rights team was in an intermission because the teacher who was organizer of it last year, she's no longer at the school. So new teachers have been established to take over that role. And I think it's really important to dedicate the welcoming of students from all different backgrounds and identities to increase the school's safety and limit harassment levels and making these differences of students normalized and celebrated. There's also a proposal of a cycling.
Quick question, can you speak a little bit louder for me?
A proposal of a cycling club. There's a meeting of that on Monday. And for interested students, it would be for road biking, mountain biking, all that stuff.
That's cool.
And it would get students outdoors and provide an obscure opportunity. And then there's also a flash fiction contest that Noble Competes is organizing. Students are writing their stories about Halloween and scary things. They're all following the same prompt, so we really want to see where people take it. And then the winner gets a fun prize.
Great.
Flash fiction?
Yeah, so under 1,000 words. Actually,
Is that something that you guys have started or is there's just talk of, like, it seems like,
It's the second annual, so it's been going on.
okay, I was thinking that November, what's the November?
NaNoWriMo?
Yeah, that seems like that, no,
No.
no, okay.
No, this is just like a school thing. NaNoWriMo is national.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, okay.
That was great. Thank you, Echo. So our next item is the board brochure review. Have people had a chance to take a look at that?
I'm also,
Request another T get added to my name, just for kicks.
Oh, would you like to have your name spelled correctly? It's only taken me a bunch of years to get it right.
And all the other places.
So,
all right, you just can go that way.
okay.
Thank you.
Guys,
This is a brochure that we have available for our community members when they step in to the board meeting, and we just need to spend some time stating it. Sorry, Lynn, we gave you all some big pies. So it is a trifold, but we just copied it and did not fold it for you, just so you can begin at it. There's a couple of recommendations that we'll make based on the workshop that we attended last week. And we'll go through that, but first of all, if we could just talk a little bit about a few nuts and bolts. I know that Stephanie, you emailed in about a couple committees, and that's why we're really talking about this. What do we need to update and how do we need to update that? So once we go through that, we can make it the updates and have it available for the next meeting out for the community.
One of the things I saw on the committee section is the facilities and finance committee where we've lost a few people.
Yeah.
Because of promotions.
right. We changed some things around.
We
Yep.
had staffing on there before and all those staff people have now gone into administrative positions, so.
Right.
Okay.
And I had said that Lynn and I are on the Code of Conduct Committee as well. And I'm not sure, Kate, if you fell in on that one. I've tried to include you on those meetings and I don't know if you were part of that one or if it was the Policy Committee. Policy, okay. And then also it says Policy Subcommittee. Wouldn't it just be Policy Committee?
Yeah, we can make some decisions about that, right? They are considered to be subcommittees of the board, but
Oh, okay.
we can make them.
Oh, and the facility and finance committee is more of a committee of the district, but not of the board. So-
Kind of, yeah.
Right, yeah, because it's got non-board, okay.
And then
Conduct.
can we, I don't know if it's because it was a subcommittee, but the italicized, can we make it non?
Sure.
And then I had said, I think it was Denise and Travis and me who were on the new construction committee, but that one kind of fell apart when now we're not doing the building, so I don't think we need to list that, but I was throwing that one in.
So just if we could go back, Code of Conduct, Stephanie,
And Lynn, yeah.
And that's just one that meets once a year, basically, just to review. So we did it last.
So just reviewing policy or
It's just looking
reviewing?
at the code of conduct and making sure that we're still feeling like that represents our system.
Mhm.
Well,
I think we actually had something come up too that I have notes for it, but yeah.
If that's not like a regular meeting,
No.
I'd be happy to, if we need an extra person, I'd be happy to sit in on that.
So for facility and finance, we have Lynn and Travis. And so we have Berwick and North Berwick. So I didn't know if anybody, you can email me if you're interested in attending any of these. We'd like, at least for the facilities and finance committee, to have one rep from each town at those meetings, just because it's all the budget kind of.
Raising the pen,
Happy to be on that committee.
Okay, thank
raising
you.
the pen. We'll take her in.
Can we have 2 from Lebanon? Okay. Yeah, I was interested in adding that this year too, please.
Okay. And then for the policy subcommittee, we have Stephanie, Lynn, and sometimes we've had
Yeah.
invited you.
And I'd be happy to
Okay.
be included there.
Excuse me.
God bless.
A few things, one of the biggest things actually that came up as we went through the workshop that we attended last week was about public input. So on that, under the mission statement, it says public participation policy.
Mhm.
So if you look at C, it said, down at the bottom, it says, public input is designed for Noble residents. And that needs to be shifted to, it needs to be shifted to something like community members. Because it's not just the 3 towns of our district. What the law Drummond said when they were going through the presentation is that everybody's considered a community member as part of Maine.
Because we have
So-
we have state funding as well as federal funding. So it's not just the 3 towns folks that can have a conversation with us.
So that just needs.
Can
to shift a little
we,
bit.
like, can we still prioritize, like, district residents? In some way, I don't know if it matters, but
I think, I think that that's part of the conversation. I think the policy committee can play with these. with the
Because-
language a little bit.
didn't this writing kind of come out of a time when there was quite a bit of input from non-district people, which is fine, but
Yeah.
like it was district
Mhm.
residents who we wanted to
Mhm.
prioritize.
Right.
I know we have to make it open.
Right.
So it has to be different, even though you say the board chair may grant non-residents the opportunity?
So that, we do have good language. That is not bad language. It's the
Right.
question though of how specific it needs to be. So we'll need to like run that through policy just to be sure. If this, because I,
Like intended for district residents.
yeah.
Mhm.
But there is clear language from
Hmm.
the powers that be that we cannot not allow
Mm.
outside folks to speak. So I think we can just play with that a little bit.
Speaking of part C, in the middle column at the top, it should be indented.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Oh.
like D and E, it should be.
Oh, yeah, there, yeah, you're right. It switched over. Oh, that's weird though. Hold on.
So is that top part of C?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, and then the other question, I think we always have is there is no requirement to have 2 public input sessions, so you, as you talk through policy, you may just want to stick to your one. So that's just fine.
And then we can take it off the agenda because we have it at the end of the agenda.
Yeah.
So
It
that's,
would be nice to have that statement that is part of the thing that's read at the beginning about differing opinions and treating each other.
In here.
with respect. That would-
yeah, we can definitely have that. Yep, agreed. Right before the public participation policy, yeah.
I had one picky thing about the layout. That's not really important, but the upper right-hand corner where it says, welcome to the MSAD Directors Meeting. I thought that looked kind of awkward, having the MSAD on one line and the 60 on another.
Oh, gotcha.
I actually was,
Having the number symbol in there.
Okay.
I think if you moved MSAD down to that line, next to 60 and without the number symbol, it would look better.
Okay.
Actually, if you could get it to 2 lines, so board of
Right,
director meeting
right.
on one.
Yeah, we can figure that out.
Right.
Yeah.
We can play with it.
Make that box bigger to match the board members,
Mhm.
that size, then it will all fit.
Yeah, that's a good point
Elva's-
too.
Details, Elva's name is not italicized, but everyone else is.
I think that's because, oh, no. Wait, Kathleen, oh, yeah.
It is kind of weird. All right.
And then on the other side, is it worth rearranging that whole side so the public participation policy starts at the top of the column and goes straight through on like 2 columns
Yes, we can.
together?
Well,
Kind of-
yeah, so I think we wanted the
Down.
mission statement to be, where would you put?
I would leave the mission statement, but I would move over like board meetings or school board duties and responsibilities or the affirmative action, like put those under that first column
Oh, I see.
and then public participation, so.
Could you put the mission statement on the front?
Yeah, that,
Mhm. Yeah, we could do that.
So what, is this the front right here?
Yes, wait.
yes.
Not to make too much work, but I think we had talked about linking to this agenda. It might be helpful to just have a regular straight up version that's not laid out for a trifold
Okay.
version that we can link to.
On the back panel here, this novel panel, policy KE, what,
KE.
is that or?
So this actually work out.
Oh, policy
Yes.
KE, oh,
KE.
duh.
Thank you.
So, yes,
Could I be Kate?
yes,
You don't want to be
absolutely.
Kathleen? Okay.
I have Kate here. Okay.
Then we could put vice chair for Alva.
Right, right. Mhm.
Yeah, we give you more room.
That's right. Okay. Okay, good. So we'll make some of these changes and then we can have the policy committee just meet quickly after we make these changes before our next meeting and just kind of go through and make sure that we're capturing everything that we talked about here tonight.
Okay.
And we'll firm up this part a little bit more about the community members at public input. So, okay. Thank you for that feedback.
Okay, so the next item of business is the Drummond Woodsum Workshop.
Okay.
So I'm sorry that I missed that because it really sounded like a wonderful opportunity.
Right. It was, and they moved it originally, like, they bumped it a week, so it was hard to kind of reschedule some schedules. So I guess I can kind of just start with a quick overview, and Denise attended and we'll go from there. So basically, Drummond and Woodson puts on, ongoing workshops, and the one that we just recently attended was just about, basically about reviewing the Human Rights Act for the state of Maine and what that means, so that we're all on the same page with that. Talked about the First Amendment rights and how that impacts and complements book challenges and public input. And that's where we got a little bit more information on public input. And then a little bit of discussion around, like disruptive, very similar to when we were having some of those discussions about, are we masking, are we not masking? How to kind of, intervene with some of that in what kind of ways. And then the other thing was also about curriculum. And if there's a controversial part of the curriculum, talking through some of that. So those were just kind of the 3 highlights, and they went into a great amount of detail, talking about, the First Amendment rights and how that relates to LGBTQ plus, how that relates to any student and how it relates to equity. So those were just some of those were the highlights of that. Denise, I don't know if you want to add, it was a lot of information.
A lot of information. It was, yeah, I mean, I would say that was certainly the kind of the highlights of it. I think what I took away from it were a couple of things. One is just a reminder of kind of the range and importance of what our teachers deal with on a daily basis. So, navigating, it left me, with an even more respect for what they do, and just the amount that they handle so incredibly well. It was also a reminder that for the most part, people are civil and respectful and want the same things. And so it's more kind of like dealing with exceptions. They did keep coming back, and I think this was sort of helpful for board members when we're faced with challenging questions. Just a reminder that the Maine Human Rights Act is what all of our policies about equity and inclusion are based on. And I need to go back and read it, but it's considered a very, very solid, comprehensive, and I think well-respected. I think it's a good example. So it's just a reminder that when we face questions about maybe like, why are we doing things? It's just that our policies are based off of the Maine Human Rights Act, which is, it's built into law. So this isn't like up for debate really. So that answers a lot of the questions that we get. So I want to go and read it and just be more familiar. And then I think sort of conversations about First Amendment rights were really interesting, and clarifying, and even those kind of made it, like, all of it was so much information, but the answers that they gave were kind of the same answers over and over, like the Maine Human Rights Act, First Amendment rights, like, so the answers are actually simpler than so many of the questions maybe. But I don't know that it was recorded. And they had slides, but the slides were like a fraction of what was talked about. So it was eye-opening, and like, I don't mean this in a bad way, but I was exhausted when it was an hour and a half, and the hour and a half went by like that, like flew by. So I do wish that I could sort of, like, I tried to take some notes, and then there was just
It's a lot to it.
there was a lot to it. And then kind of trying to read some of the input that people had in the chats was also, there's a lot, people got a lot of questions,
Yeah. Yeah, there was quite a few board members on from other districts that are really struggling with some of the pretty significant book challenges.
Yeah.
And the FOIA requests.
Yeah.
So, like, for instance, York has 60 Freedom of Information requests that are, and they actually have them on their website, so you can go look at what people are, what
6-0.
66.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's a lot of money.
Yes.
It is. It costs a lot of money to do the FOIA request in terms of the work that we need to do, but we currently are not we're not dealing with the numbers like that. But all around us, as we meet regularly with the superintendents, there's upticks because there's people interested and asking, and there are also people that are encouraging, like, really put your schools under the pressure of providing information. So those will come. We'll see that. There was a couple of school systems are dealing with a specific person who is putting in many requests, not only in his community, but in other communities. So we'll see if that trickles out to the rest of us. We just don't know, but that's where and there was one gentleman who was like, we had somebody come to our board meeting and was very disruptive, and we didn't know how to shut him down because it was difficult. It was really difficult. So, and the response was that you really can't.
Yeah, and some of the responses that people have taken have not, they didn't necessarily know what the right thing, it seemed like the right move at the time, but it kind of backfired a little bit. So I think that's understanding First Amendment rights on all sides, like, not, doesn't mean anything goes, but it also means that there's certain, it is a public forum. So it was I hope they do something like that again, because I feel like that one time is not enough to cover it. And there were 120 people on the call, you know.
I have one more thing to add to that, just it makes you think that we were talking about being inclusive and that you can be too pushy for being inclusive. I never really thought about it like that before when they're talking about, you know, teachers doing polls about what name
Yep.
would you prefer and things like that. And yeah, you can poll, you can ask, but it's not a requirement to get that information back. And just because you want to know for your classroom doesn't mean that, you know, you can get that information. And I think I was more surprised on thinking that through. I never thought about that.
There's a lot of different angles to look at
Yeah.
when you're dealing with these kind of really difficult conversations, right?
And what you said with the notes, you know me, I'm always writing notes. I stopped. Yeah, I couldn't do it.
Were you on the call?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
You
realize.
had like a few half sentences that don't make any sense at all, and I just stopped.
Yeah, well, I was hoping the thing that they were sending out after was going to be different. But
Yeah.
same as you, though, I hope they bring it back. That was really very informative.
Yeah, I think I think it would have to be done in a verbal format. Like you couldn't just write that all down.
Mhm.
Too many different scenarios and
Well, we can encourage them to do it on a regular basis, you know?
I mean, even if it was once a year, I think it would give people a chance who couldn't make it to kind of cycle through.
Yeah.
We did look at some of our policies that they referenced after the fact, and our policies are looking pretty tight.
Yeah.
So that is good,
They're up
you
to
know,
date.
yeah.
Yeah, the only one that we really need to look at is our public input policy
Right.
to make sure it's
Right. Mhm.
appropriate. So. All right. Right.
Excellent, thank you. So now FY 24 budget.
Travis, I
Da-da-da-da.
just shared the timeline with you in a Google Doc, Travis.
Yes, I got it. I got to toggle back and forth.
Okay,
Thank you.
There's enough here. You can pass these out to the folks in the audience too, if they want to see our life flashing before our eyes.
the rest of the year, the rest of the
Yeah.
Oh, here we are.
I'm gonna start at the bottom. The pink May 25th date is the date that we're having the budget meeting in the auditorium. And we need as many board members there as possible, because that's when anything can be changed in the budget based on community voting or suggesting. And it will be really helpful if as many from each town of you that can attend. I think it's typically at 6:30. That meeting is typically at 6:30. And then I believe that we will have a regular board meeting after that if we need to. I think that kind of goes back to back. So just before I go through the rest of this, if you remember from last year, we were kind of informed pretty kind of late in our process that North Berwick, because of the copying of the ballots, that we needed to move our process quicker. So what we did this summer was we just checked in with the towns to make sure of the timeline before we talk about it here. So this timeline honors the timing of the towns and what they need to do for their printing or the ballots and everything like that. So we should be in good shape with this part of the budget process. So on October 4th, we had a very, very, very brief meeting with the administrative team just to start them thinking about a 5-year plan for their department or their building. And so that was just the initial process for them. And then on Monday, they're going to be getting budget templates distributed from Denise Van Campen. And then we have our administrative meeting on the 25th, which is Tuesday. That will be prioritizing some goals for our district budget. So as we move through the process of developing the budget, we're all looking at those goals. And the week of November 28th, cost centers. So what we call cost centers, for those of you kind of newer to our process, the cost centers are the buildings, are all the departments. So they're each a cost center. So when we say cost center, that will be the schools, maintenance, school nutrition, transportation, Excel. So that will be all those pieces, ESL, library, everything like that. So that's a cost center. So we have during the week of November 28th, we will be meeting with those cost centers at the central office. So that would be Sue, Denise, myself. And from there may be changes made to their original thought process. Like as we kind of go through, they may kind of shift things up a little bit based on some of the questions we have or enrollment or different things like that. And then we need their budgets done like around the 1st. So then January 11th, we have ordering supply. We have everything in here. So just, everybody has different roles in this, but so it's all encompassing of the central office, the schools, your responsibilities. So ordering the budget binder supplies, and then Friday, January 27th, final draft expense budget for Audra and Sue's review. So that's compiled, everything compiled just for a review. Monday, February 1st, we not only review it, but we sit down and go through it. We should be receiving our subsidy information from the state of Maine at that point in time. So really, everything up until that point in time matters, but things can change based on what's happening when we get those figures in on February 1st, February 2nd. We start having budget meetings with cost center managers. And then the first draft is finalized on February 10th. Denise and Jen start the budget binder process, compiling all the information for the board. And then you start by February 5th, 17th. Hopefully we'll get the binders by then. And then we have our annual report write-ups due to Eustachio for review with Sue and I for the annual report. So we're looking at different formats for that a little bit. Obviously, we have to have the budget in there, but we're trying to look at a more like community-friendly forum to, document, because we have a lot of people who are, have children in school, but we have a lot of people who don't have children in school. So just really trying to make it as accessible as possible for our whole community. And then we have our Facilities and Finance Committee meeting the week of February 27th, and that will be administrator or cost center presentations. And we're looking at a Monday through Wednesday and times determined. So I just wanted to check in to make sure those of you on the committee, if that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday works, or a Monday, Tuesday better, or a Tuesday, Wednesday, so we can kind of lock that in so we can start scheduling those.
Sorry, which week is that?
February 27th.
Okay.
So if you want to just look at your calendars and let me know if there's a problem on any of those days, we can work around that. So right after Facilities and Finance, the superintendent's budget is presented to the board, and there's a budget workshop. So that's the workshop with question and answers with the cost centers. So they'll all be here present. So we'll go through the budget presentation, and then we'll have an opportunity for you to visit the different cost centers. And then from March 9th through March probably 1st, it will be, those meetings will happen if we need them every Thursday to kind of go through the budget process. We'll come up with a decision sheet like we have in the past, and start just kind of going through everything at that point in time. And then go through the annual report. We'll review the annual report. We typically the annual report typically goes to the printer right before or during April break, and then it gets mailed out right from there. And then the board, so as a board on April 6th, you need to sign the budget meeting, the warrants. And then Betty Moore will deliver those ballot warrants to the towns. And then you can see we've got vacation in there. Then the big May 25th meeting is in there. And then the vote is July 13th. The other day I think is pretty important. I did not put this in pink, but the 15th is really important. We definitely need a quorum there. Because we need to sign the budget validation documents and assessment warrants for the towns. And then the 16th is the documents are sent to the towns. So that's it in a nutshell. It is a big
Big nut.
Any questions from any board members?
The only hiccup I have is with the facilities is, March 1st is I'm on shift, so
Okay,
that'll be difficult, but the other 2 days are in between shifts, so I should be available.
okay. We may also need to meet the Facilities and Finance Committee a little bit before that because as Denise, I think she mentioned this last time she was in, it's taking a long time to get supplies for projects, for grounds and maintenance. So we may need to have a Facilities and Finance Committee meeting to talk about some of the things that we're already getting prices on, like paving and different things like that, so that the Facilities and Finance Committee can look at those items and see what we want to bring forward to the board. So the board can say, okay, go ahead and try to book to get this, or you can start thinking about ordering this for summer work, because it's just taking a lot of time to get things in. But when that occurs, when we've got some bids in and some, bids and, bids and quotes, we will, contact those of you who are on the committee to see when you can meet to sit down for that.
So can you do a favor and either email out this timeline or link it to one?
I'll link it in
or
the
something?
minutes. Okay. Yep. And we'll send it to you all as well.
Thank you. So our next item on the agenda is an educational update.
Okay. So we'll just do a few highlights, just sticking with our tradition of attendance. So student attendance looks good still. We're in October, but we're looking good. So the range for all schools was 91% in attendance to 98% in attendance. Staff looks good as well, in the fact that this is just for illness, as we talked about a few times, like we took out if they're at if anybody's at a conference or anything like that. So it ranged from staff, full staff without illness to 7 staff who were out with illness, and that's in all of the schools. Those are kind of the averages. 7 was the highest for staff out with illness. Yeah, so that's it. So those were our big pieces. I will put down, I have the athletic update and transportation update under other, but I'll just talk about it in the educational update right now. So our athletic update is that the regular season has ended for all sports except football. Field hockey finished 4th in the MPA Heel Points and will host Thornton Academy next Wednesday in the quarterfinals. Girls soccer finished 11th in the Heel Points and will travel to Thornton Academy on Friday for their preliminary playoff game. Cross country travels to the regional meet this Saturday at Twin Brook in Cumberland. The state meet is next Saturday. Football hosts Massabesic this Saturday, and it's their senior game, and they are hoping to make a playoff bid. Volleyball and boys soccer are done. However, they've had very good, strong seasons, especially volleyball, with this being their first season. Golf finished the regular season a few weeks ago, and many of the athletes made a very strong postseason run. Our winter athletics begin on November 21st, and I just want to give a highlight on that. There's been some discussion at Maine Principals Association, the athletic portion of that, and the referees for ice hockey. And they are at a stalemate right now about what reimbursement is going to occur for the referees. So there's been a lot of discussion about what's going to happen with hockey. So our hockey team is part of Marshwood, Sanford, I think it's York, right?
Yep.
So
Sanford, York. Yep.
York. And so all the communities that have hockey are just meeting to talk about what to do about that. There's been kind of a movement to take it away from MPA and have a kind of a more grassroots organization run that. And there's some pluses and concerns for that. So I think over the next couple of weeks, the athletic directors, principals, superintendents, assistant superintendents will all be talking about that. York County, Cumberland County, I know that we're going to have a meeting with, down at Marshwood next week to go through that. So just so you know, if you hear anything, it's true that they're trying to work things out right now. And we really don't know what that's going to mean for us.
I'm sorry if I missed this, but what, the big cross-country meet that we're hosting
The 20th of November.
of November, okay,
Mhm.
all right, and that's planning for that's coming along,
Yes.
and how many people are they expecting?
A lot.
The 700 to 1,000 athletes.
Athletes, not including all of their
Families.
Right, right. That's pretty cool.
And some sort of theater thing at the same time.
Yes, the theater starts
Yep.
at 4:30 or 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So does that cross-country thing involve any of our cross-country teams at this time? Or is
Does
it,
that, I didn't, sorry.
Does it have any of our kids?
yeah, does it
participating?
involve any of our teams or our programs?
I don't know.
I assume it's
It's-
qualified.
Right, you have to,
Right,
because
yeah.
it's, yes,
It's a
I think you have to
qualification.
qualify, yes. And I'm not sure how many athletes we have that have qualified.
And then,
We'll find out.
volunteers and all that stuff, are we expected to get volunteers for this whole event, or is this all being handled by the national group?
They're handling this. However, we are allowing some of our clubs or different organizations to come in and I think the North Berwick PTO is going to maybe do some water, and we've got a club here that wants to do some snacks. So those types of things, but we're going to help set up, but they're coming in that Friday night to really do all the setup and the marking and notifying and signage and everything.
Cool.
So our transportation department, we still are short drivers. We've had 2 staff members that were out with COVID the same week, which really taxed our department. And the positive of this, I'll take that shortage out because we really haven't made any marked changes since the last time we talked. But there has been a multi-year issue with Ride 360 talking to our other data tracking systems as far as our student information system with student addresses and contact information, and it was resolved.
That's a huge thing.
Which is huge because, as I said, it's been multi-years with different specialists coming in, looking at different programs. So this will very much improve Ride 360 for families. And because, there is a part on there that you can track where the bus is. So instead of calling and saying, where's the bus? My child's 15 minutes late. You can go on Ride 360 when it's working properly and see what street they're on or where they're at. That has not really been up and running, but this fix will help that part. So the department's very excited about that. And then finally, there are 2 employees that are very close to being licensed. So
We're getting there.
so we're getting there. We are still unable to cover our activity runs at this time, but Brenda's thinking that we're going to look at starting to cover those in November. Our athletic department has done a tremendous job hiring, organizing, and getting transportation. We talked a little bit about that last time when we were here, but that's still occurring and it's taking a lot of time, but hopefully it will lighten up a little bit this winter. Okay, that's
Okay,
it. That's it.
That's a lot.
I know.
How about employment update?
Okay. I forwarded you Chris Russo's resignation letter.
Yep.
So Chris has been in the district for 21 years. He was a teacher.
We echo like, what? Yeah.
So Chris was hired as a teacher and moved into the dean of students and then stayed dean, or did we have him as an assistant principal?
Nope, we plucked him from
From
the
the
dean
dean.
land into the technology field.
So 21 full years in the district,
Yeah.
and he was offered a position in his home district. which is in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And just had declined it a few times, and then it made sense for his family. So he does not have a hard, fast ending date with us. We advertised the position. We have probably 15 candidates right at the moment that have applied for the position with various interests and experience. So it will be a rich interview process, and we will go from there. That is a tremendous. Chris has been a tremendous help for us in the district, and
I mean, what he did over the last 3 years is just
It's amazing.
crazy.
right. Yes, yes. And the visioning that he has had all the way through.
And in his letter, I think, if you have a chance to read it, he just talks about how it's been a pleasure to be able to have that opportunity. So it's good. But we're all sad.
He's also built a good team.
Yeah.
Like, so I think that's,
And we're in a good place.
Yeah, as things
place.
go, we are well positioned.
Yeah.
And we have really good candidates, which is great.
Good.
So we do need to have a motion, a consideration, and an action on this.
Do we have a motion to accept Chris's resignation?
I'll make a motion to accept it with a great amount of appreciation. What he's done.
And a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? With regrets?
Yeah. Yeah.
Motion is passed. That all?
Okay, that's all for employment.
Okay,
Okay.
so we are now at other. Does anybody have any other that they would like to bring forward?
I do. Just the second run through of the paper for the boxes for each of the towns. Here's some for you. Minor changes, Denise, just,
I did get your email. I never replied to you. I'm sorry.
oh, that's fine. It's mainly, I had circle the town you reside in. We wanted to change that to a checkbox. And then I got rid of, there was a set of lines underneath the name that said email, phone number preferred, which is your preferred contact method. And got rid of that because we said that we're going to discuss it in public session. The ones that are for us and not for other. So I took that part out, and just at the bottom, we were trying to figure out how to put in when this is going to be addressed. So this is what I came up with for wording. Your submission will be discussed during the second public input session of the third week of each month. In the event more follow-up is needed, please list your preferred method of contact. So,
Meetings on the first and third. Never
yeah.
mind. I was like,
Instead of
okay.
on of the third week, to be on the third week.
Thank you. See, this is what I need. Okay. Oh, so that goes with the box, because remember, people were talking about how is everybody going to know when we're collecting it and things like that. So the boxes are a different size than I thought. So this was supposed to go right on it, but I think I have to slightly format it, make it a little bit smaller. But it's basically just stating, it's, since you guys are at the same table, can I borrow? Thank you. Here, and if you want to pass it over after.
Take a second public input out.
All right, well, you get the idea though, it's restated, on the top and then the bottom, just how's the wording on it. This box will be emptied on the second week of each month. Your submission, if applicable to the board, will be discussed during the second public input session of the regular board meeting during the third week of each month. And I had to write that over and over again because it's so much information and how to say it without it being confusing. So is it clear?
So I do have a couple of questions. Who's picking these up?
I'm gonna do the ones for Lebanon, and people piped up about North Berwick and Berwick saying that they would switch off going to pick it up. So it's only gonna be picked up once a month during, the second week.
Denise, we said you had the odd and even months in Berwick. That's what happens when you miss the meeting, apparently.
Okay.
Does it make sense on the second sheet that you handed out? It said your submission will be discussed if appropriate to the board.
Yeah.
Does it make sense adding that to the actual form?
That's what I was gonna say. Start your submission with when appropriate, your submission will be
Yeah.
discussed during.
So my only concern is like, we've got this great brochure with context and everything as far as public input goes. And I don't know how to, like, none of that is referenced here. Not that it should all be, but this becomes public input, right?
So the stuff that has to go to Audra, we're just gonna separate out and hand off to her. And then the stuff that applies to the board, yeah, would be for our second public input session.
So one of the questions that I would have, and I apologize because I wasn't part of any of the conversation, is how do folks know what we're separating out? Like, how do folks know that this is going to be just for the superintendent or the central office versus what's going to go to that piece of it? Is there information, like, will they get some feedback that, hey, we're going to, or I don't know. That's what I'm just trying to figure out.
Checkbox on here, that's did you see this? Your question for the board or for central office.
See, I thought about that initially, but I don't think people know
Know which-
who their questions.
No, and I think everything would go to the board. If they had the option, they would say, no, we want the board to discuss this.
Comes to us, we
We're gonna
sort it,
all look at
and then
them, yeah.
Audra would
Thank you.
give feedback to I think we talked about that at the last
Yep.
meeting.
Okay.
That Audra would address, that she needs to address, and we would bring everything else to the board.
And the stuff that Audra's asked, that she can respond on anything that seems mainstream, we talked about putting on the, like the
Right.
question page. And then the same thing with us, anything that we're answering in public input. If it seems like it's gonna be a question that many people ask, we wanna list that on the website too. And if there's something that is really specific, we might choose to talk individually to the person as opposed to public input. So I think we kind of got to figure it out as we go.
But I think if it's up individually, though, the board needs to hear it first.
Yeah.
Oh, I
And then we
agree.
decide
Yep.
whether that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Then if somebody's speaking for the board, because we're not supposed to be doing that without. the board.
Right.
Right. Oh, yeah, yeah. I'm with you with that. I meant if we read it and it's one of those things that we can't talk about kind of thing, because that would be after. But I think we bring it all up. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, because I'm late to the game and you emailed me and I looked at it, but I didn't really think about the bigger context. The goal here is to get more involvement.
Yes, and the original idea was, and this is gonna be for people that are online as well, but my initial idea was for the people who don't have internet and people who go into the town office and who are like, oh, while I'm here, I can, ask this question. So it's kind of become twofold now.
We should have a small, maybe little sentence somewhere on there that says you're welcome to attend the meeting
Mm-hmm.
when we're
Yep.
have these issues.
I just
Okay.
think we put so much thought into like how to present, how to make public input like welcoming and setting a tone and making sure that we say that like we can't discuss things if it's has to do with individuals or like, I just feel like we've put so much work into that over time. And none of that is is referenced here. So that's my concern is like, it sort of undoes, it's not a word, but, like the work that we've put into, this and sort of how meetings are run. And so I don't know, I just worry that it like it sort of opens a door, sets an expectation for something that there's no reference to what questions we can discuss or what's appropriate or,
My sense is that we will need to be very thoughtful, taking in the questions, and it just is going to be one of those things, I think, that we're going to be responding to people and connecting with them to make sure they recognize what public input can handle and can't handle. And that's okay. That, I mean, that's what we'll do. We'll just, but I think it's gonna be, I think it'll be interesting, honestly, to see what kind of feedback people are asking for. And then, but I feel like it'll be incumbent upon us to take care of that feedback more than anything.
Yeah.
That would be my guess. So I will say to you, let's roll with it and see how it goes. And if it's killing us, we're gonna have to figure that out. Like if it adds an additional layer that we're not able to maintain, but it might not at all. It might be very simple. You know, it might be simple and easy.
I'm hoping most people will continue to try to come to meetings and with that way, but at least for the people who can't, hope
Yep.
that it opens that up. And yeah, if it all turns into a horrible mess, we can get rid of it and go back.
Well, I think it'll just be interesting to see who utilizes it. What type of person is looking to be able to provide that input this way.
Mhm.
I don't know. I think it's gonna be interesting.
But just a technicality, somebody mentioned that the second public input wasn't necessary.
I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as
Yeah.
they said that tonight, I was just like, oh, that doesn't work for this. But we did discuss that in the last meeting, about how are we gonna do this and what format will we do it in?
Yeah.
So the consensus last week was that we'd have to do it in the second public input because we don't want to take away from people who are actually here for the first public input. And actually, even the second, if there are people here, I think we would take them and then we'd have to, yeah, exactly. So we're gonna have to be flexible with that.
Can I assume if somebody didn't put their name, we wouldn't like address it? I mean, somebody came to public input, they have to say their name and who they are, right?
Yeah, there's nothing we can't respond to people if they don't at least identify, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, those will be fun, right? Those will be the fun questions that they ask, but people, don't put their name down out. They're like, oh, this is fun. But we can't respond to it if we don't know who to respond to, right? Because this also feels to me like this is providing direct conversation
Mhm.
Yeah.
with us. And then it would be something that we would need to monitor for how it gets direct conversation with your board members, because again, you can't really act on your own. So,
Right.
so it's definitely it's sort of like a filtering system that we're going to be.
So is it something like when we pick them up, whoever's picking them up, we kind of just put them in an envelope and give them to you? And then-
It probably makes sense for that. I feel like I don't think it's a problem for you to look at them, but in your brain, you might be like, I'm going to just wait to see what gets filtered back to me. That's up to you guys. I mean, I think it's tempting, right? To look at everything and try to respond. So I think it's an interesting experiment.
I apologize for not knowing this. Is everything that's in the brochure and the new statement we read before public input, is that all on the website?
The brochure is.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that,
Reference,
Public
like, some-
yeah,
put a byline on here of like, this is awesome, by the way, thank you.
Yep.
Put a byline of like for like rules and regs or whatever.
Yep.
Please visit MS86, like our website, and then also maybe and I know this is like counterintuitive of the group we're aiming for, but maybe also like stick a QR code of I can make one if you need it.
yeah, that's a great idea. I love this.
And that way, like,
Make me
that way
great.
we're kind of covering ourselves of like, and maybe even on this part too. That way we're covering ourselves with stuff that we said, like we've worked, all this policy work has been done. Let's make sure we cover Heine's and have it there too.
No, that should be fine to stick on. And then adding the welcome to attend, and I'll just list out that we meet the first and third week.
Because I think a lot of people too are, when they go to the selectmen boards, they have some of these questions.
Yeah.
And so as they're walking into the town hall, I'm assuming they'll meet in the town hall. I don't know every town, but
Mhm.
that you can also reference if you have that question. We have a box outside.
Yeah.
that you can kind of put a
Yeah.
question in and they get an answer much quicker than us.
Yeah.
So two questions I have are, how are we gonna pay for the box or
Oh, I already bought them.
you, okay? And then, how are we gonna let people know that this is another avenue that they can utilize to contact the board or the administration.
If they walk in the town office, they'll see it. If they don't, hopefully they're online and,
Okay.
yeah, I don't think we need to, I don't want to put anything out, an extra text for people or anything on this.
Yeah, let's see how it flows.
Yeah.
And then if it seems like a good opportunity, then Estacio can do something on it eventually. And if it's more of like a, oh my goodness, we will quietly
And I think
the boxes up.
encourage in-person participation.
Yeah.
Right? So like
Yeah.
not plugging it to start with, I think is hopefully gonna encourage
Yeah.
us to keep encouraging people to come to
Come to the meeting.
meetings.
Yeah.
Do we want to set up a 90-day or a 6-month window where we're treating this as a pilot? And we'll reassess it at the end of that time as to how effective it is?
I think that's fine. And it could go the opposite way too. We could have absolutely like no one, or maybe one thing and then it's not worth
Mhm.
doing. So yeah, I think a
It's always
pilot's
good
an
to look
idea.
at things anyways, right? You know, check it out,
Yeah.
how it goes. Okay,
So do we need a motion or anything to do this, or are we?
I don't think so.
No.
I mean, you can, but I don't think you need to.
Okay,
I just wanted extra feedback so I could like make it
Yeah.
final. Okay,
Okay,
thank you guys.
thank you.
thank you.
Can I just say for the record that my concerns are that this is going to be, that it could potentially be challenging to make this work within our communication obligations. That's my concern. So if we can just keep an eye on that and make sure that however this does flow fits within, you know, our rules of communication and public input and, you know, First Amendment, right? Everything that we sort of operate under in a public forum. I just want to make sure that this is able to fit into that. And we'll see. But that is my concern. So I feel like if it doesn't, I would like us to be pretty quick to either adjust, you know, take another look at it. So I just want to kind of register that as a sort of the flag that is up for me.
Yeah. I would agree that I think that regular review is important. So like I would just say, we should check into it on a regular basis. How is it flowing? Is it working? Are you guys getting the feedback that you need? Are we able to provide the right amount of feedback to the people that are asking the questions?
Yeah, just.
So we can do it on a monthly
They just
basis.
put their name on it,
Yeah.
are we tossing them? And if they do, is like, how do we make sure that this does not fall into something that we're discussing outside of a meeting?
Yeah.
Or like the determination of if it's to the board, technically everything should come to us. I just feel like there's a lot of, there's not a lot of obligations, but we have some obligations around communication as a board and being in the public. And I just want to make sure that we're able to do this in the spirit of what we're looking to do, which is including people who maybe can't get to a meeting or aren't online or whatever. But just to make sure that we have it set up in a way that we're able to sort of act on it in a way that fits in with our obligations.
Okay.
It's reasonable.
New things. It's always interesting. It's all good.
Thank you, Stephanie.
It's a lot of
Um,
work.
Love others.
okay, Lauren.
First of all, I meant to mention this at the last one. A handful of us were emailed by a resident and employee about the photographer in town, and the question was, it was yearbooks and photographer, and there was someone who used to do local, I'm paraphrasing, so apologies if I don't get this spot on, but used to be a local photographer. We switched for whatever reason. We now have, are all the schools Life Touch, all the same contract and all the same things.
Yep.
I don't know anything about that process. So are we staying with this going forward, or was the decision to go mainstream, not local, or?
So it's, we look at it annually and make determinations based on, oftentimes it's about ability to produce in a really quick format turnover, but we always open it up as like this year is finished up, but like we'll look at it for next year. Basically what I do is we sit down and talk with the administrative team about pluses and minuses of the larger companies, and then people can come in and pitch their ideas. Yeah, so it's one of those pieces of it. We try really hard for it not to be all consuming, because it can become all consuming. So that's.
Lauren, I can't remember if I'm making this up, but I feel like in the past, sometimes athletics has worked with people that were more local. Am I dreaming that? So like that could be an avenue.
Yeah.
Either certainly for the club teams, but also I'm not sure. I don't think the teams go through the same photographers as like school pictures, right?
I don't
They
think
have
so.
more they have flexibility.
Yeah.
They don't sit in on those meetings.
Yeah.
So you can have that person reach out to athletics. Yep, and then if they want to reach out to the central office, we can incorporate them as part if they want to come in and.
Yeah, for the next bid.
When you guys go over everything, do you have the like yearbook committees, like any feedback from the yearbook committees?
So there's one, like I'm human that does all of the yearbooks.
Each school. No,
Some of the schools.
has-
Oh, some of the
Some of
schools do
them,
Yeah,
some of them.
yeah.
Yeah, some
So
of
do
them.
you have feedback from them? Because I
You
can,
do get feedback from the school administrators who get the feedback from the
Yeah,
school.
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to hear directly what they have to
Yeah.
say from working directly with Life Touch.
Yeah, oh, I know, it's not, there's nothing
Yeah.
subtle about any of this, I can tell you.
Um,
Sure, yep.
Second question, this kind of popped into my head from the donation that was shared from the woman, I forgot her name, who did the fundraising for Lebanon. And just in general, I don't know if it's been discussed before or if it wants to be more formal or just informal or whatnot, but the PTOs in the different schools, kind of what they're doing, because and just sharing their fundraising efforts, just so everyone's aware of what each school is doing.
That'd be great.
B, if things are coming up consistently, they were like, wait a minute, maybe this should be a budget item, not a PTO fundraiser item. So I could share PTO hat on. Norfolk PTO just did our mom fundraiser and raised $1,600, which was enough for every student to get $5 towards a book at the book fair.
Yeah.
Every student went home with a book
Yeah.
for the book fair, whether they whether they went into the book fair with any money or not. And then the last question is and I don't know that I should know this maybe, the backpack program, and how is it funded?
For,
Is it by school? Is it by, like, how does that?
so actually the biggest support we have is district employees who give on a biweekly basis through their paychecks.
Okay,
So that's a big part of it. And then we do a lot of donations.
okay. Is it like a budget line item or?
Nope,
No,
Okay, so it's all just
Yeah.
donation based?
it's
Okay.
100%, yeah. It's, they've actually even,
Businesses give donations.
No, it went out that it's bare, and so I didn't know
right, it's,
if,
the shelves are bare right now.
Yes.
But, we will be, we actually
Replenishing.
met today to talk about replenishing it, so.
So there was we all got an email about a grant program that was available. Is that something that could be used for the backpack program, or is that specifically have to be for?
that grant that you're talking about, the one that you emailed us this morning.
Yeah,
That grant is specific to school nutrition.
okay,
And every single time it comes up, we apply for it and we have received that grant. The highest amount you can get is $5,000. So over the course of the past few years, when we've done that, some of the focus needs to be on equipment
Mhm.
or supplementing the money for school nutrition.
okay,
So what we focused on, what Abby has focused on is efficiency of breakfast.
Mhm.
And so we've bought carts over the last couple of years. So like right now at the middle school, there are 3 carts, so that what they can do is they can have breakfast on each wing. They can pick up their breakfast and go right to class. So before, when it was 1 cart, they'd have to move the cart up the flights of stairs
Okay.
or, using the elevator. So every time it's come up, we've applied and
Okay,
we've
good.
received it consistently. So, yeah.
thank you.
Mhm.
That's great.
I have 2 questions. Your comment about the PTOs, were you suggesting, I'd love to hear more what people are doing, but I don't know if you were suggesting that they like come and let us know or?
I mean, I'd love I'd love for them to, but I also know being, like a co-chair of a PTO to then also put these meetings on their agenda, it gets busy. But I don't know if it's something we add to this and ask them to get any updates we want to know by a
Send us a
certain point
newsletter,
to
yeah.
share, or,
That'd be great.
Yeah, even just to throw it out there, if anyone ever does want to come and,
yeah.
That's a good segue because one of the things that we're starting to discuss is school playgrounds. And we are trying to set up a time to meet with all three of the towns, the PTO, PTAs and the towns. So we can gather information too and come back and just share some of what they're doing or invite them to come in as well.
PTO is eagerly awaiting
Yes.
this meeting.
Yes.
I do have one other, speaking of playgrounds and small children. I feel like for a while, we were talking quite a bit about pre-K. What, I don't have any idea where is
We need
that?
space.
Are we,
Well, we need
Doing that?
space, but we also don't have,
but is it mandatory?
It's
No.
not mandated
No,
yet.
not
No.
mandated yet,
They
okay.
have not pushed it through the legislature yet.
Okay, that's, I was like, surely. They got
Partly for-
broadband, and I was just kind of wondering if at any point we were gonna have to talk about it. So it's not mandated, okay, but
Partly for the reason that there is not enough space in many school systems, like.
yeah, I mean, my big concern was that I think the proposed funding was like 5 years.
Mhm.
What happens after that?
Yes, exactly.
So, okay, all right, that was, I had thought it was more solid than that, so that explains a lot. Okay, thank you.
so my other is just that in November, probably one of the meetings in November, we're having Dr. Shannon Swider come in and we'll do a whole piece on curriculum because I know there's been questions about how is our data looking because coming out of COVID, during COVID, what are some pieces that we've really focused on with curriculum, subject area curriculum. Ally Kearney's coming in from the high school at the same time to talk about the high school
Oh,
as well
great.
because she is director of studies here.
Yep.
And I have one other. I still, this is very near and dear to my heart. I still would like to get students or make
Mhm.
available to students here
Mhm.
an opportunity to register to vote if they're going to be eligible for this election. Is there someone I can work with to make that
I
happen in the
think we're
next 2
probably gonna have
weeks?
to talk to AJ.
Yeah, we've talked to him.
Yeah.
I mean, last year we mentioned that,
Yeah.
so we
Yeah.
can just circle back to that.
Okay. I'm willing to organize it but
How does that work? Is it just like, do you need a representative from the town, or how does?
I don't know how you must have to register to vote with the town, right?
With
So
the town,
there must be, but we used to, that was in the old days. The, part of being a senior at Noble High School is that you had to register to vote. That
You
was,
had to.
that was part of one of our requirements for senior project.
But you can mail in your
Yeah.
your form. So what we would need to do is get forms from each of the three
Yeah.
towns and have them.
Oh, okay.
But if,
That
if
doesn't
we-
seem super hard. Maybe we can figure that out.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we can.
We'll take it
I
up.
think we can. Thanks for that nudge.
Want to get people out to
I-
vote.
I-
Yeah, yeah, this is a big one. Okay.
Okay, so if we don't have any other, do we have a motion to, well, first of all, second chance for public input. Anybody else have anything they'd like to say before we close for the evening? Thank you very much for staying through the meeting and bearing with us. Hope you learned something. And now do I have a motion for adjournment?
Hold on. I thought we
We
have
do
an
have an
executive
executive
session.
Do we done
Yeah.
adjourn then?
We're gonna adjourn,
Never can get that order right.
but, and then when we come back, there will be nothing, or how do we say this? We're gonna go into an executive session and there will be no more regular business.
Right, but we don't adjourn until the
And
end.
we'll adjourn at the end of that, but just so everybody knows, nothing else is happening.
Okay,
Okay, so we do need to vote to go into executive session.
okay. Do we have a motion to go into executive session?
I'll make the motion to go into executive session.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Thanks. Stop recording? I'm gonna
Yes,
stop recording.
Okay.
So if you guys want to step out and then if people want to talk with you afterwards, Daniel, we can do that. Okay, so perfect. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. Good luck on your election.